The Bible clearly tells us that we aren't under law. Paul told the Romans, "For sin shall not be master over you, for you are not under law, but under grace." That's in Romans 6 and verse 14. Do you know what that means? That means there isn't any sin. 2 chapters before that, Paul wrote, "Where there is no law, neither is there violation." Romans 4 and verse 15. Sin is the transgression of the law. 1 John 3 and verse 4. If we are not under law, then we cannot sin. We've obviously misunderstood a passage or two here. Let's sort this out, and not by taking the view we like the best. Romans 6:14 is commonly used to teach that we aren't under any law. It doesn't say that we aren't under any law. In the context of Romans, Paul is saying we are not under a law of works, which is what the Old Testament law was. Under this kind of law, you have to earn your salvation by keeping the law perfectly. In Romans 4:4, Paul wrote, "Now to the one who works, his wage is not reckoned as a favor, but as what is due." But, of course, everyone sins, and as Paul pointed out earlier in Romans 3:23, we all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. It's obvious that we cannot save ourselves by keeping a law perfectly, and that is what you would have to do under the Old Testament law. Are we under law? Paul told the Romans the law of the Spirit of life in Christ Jesus has set you free from the law of sin and death. Romans 8:2. There is a different law by which we can now be saved. It isn't like the old law, but is a law of faith. After speaking of the sins committed under the old law, Paul went on in Romans 3, verses 27 through 28. Where then is boasting? It is excluded. By what kind of law? Of works? No, but by a law of faith. For we maintain that a man is justified by faith apart from the works of the law. Now, this law of faith is the law of liberty James spoke of in James 1 and verse 25. And the law of God, Paul spoke of in Romans 8 and verse 7. We are under law. If there were no law at all, then there would be no judgment in the end, for law is the basis of judgment. But it's tempered by the grace and the mercy of God under the law of Christ.